Hello everyone, welcome back to another Genshin Impact video. Lantern Rite is now right around the corner, meaning that when Xiao and Shenhe leave the current banner, Ganyu and Zhongli will be taking their place. If you're already subscribed to the channel, then you already know that we've covered Xiao, Ganyu, and Shenhe in full detail, discussing whether or not they're worth it by today's standards. So if you missed those videos and want to check them out, I'll make sure to leave some links down below. However, today we're not talking about Xiao, Shenhe, or Ganyu. No, today we're talking about the original Geo Daddy himself, Zhongli. Zhongli got off to a rocky start when he first released, all the way back in version 1.1, but since he's been buffed, he's widely considered to be one of the best characters in Genshin Impact. However, since Genshin Impact is constantly changing, and with the new addition of enemies that can actually eat through shields, many players are wondering whether or not Zhongli's actually worth it today. So today we're going to be breaking down Zhongli's kit, his best weapons, artifacts, constellations, and teammates, so that we can answer whether or not Zhongli is worth it for you and your account. If you do end up finding this video helpful at all, please feel free to leave me a like and comment down below. It does help me boost into the YouTube algorithm, and I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want to see more Genshin Impact content from me, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell. But with all that out of the way, let's get into the video. Ah yes, Morax, or as he's known today, Zhongli. This may be hard to believe, but Zhongli actually wasn't always the most popular character. In fact, there was a lot of controversy surrounding Zhongli upon his release, because many players didn't think that he was actually that good, or at the very least not good enough to be considered an Archon. This was largely due to his split scaling between attack and HP, as well as his low damage multipliers outside of his burst. In fact, the criticism got so bad, especially on the CN server, that MiHoYo actually ended up doing something that they had never done before. They went back into Zhongli's kit and directly buffed him. This had never been done before, and still hasn't been done ever since. Other characters have gotten minor tweaks here or there, or have gotten external buffs, but nothing quite as major as actually fixing their kits. And when I say that they buffed Zhongli, I mean that they really buffed Zhongli. Not only did they fix the split scaling issues between HP and attack, but they also buffed his interruption resistance, made it so that when he creates a shield he also summons a pillar as well, and most importantly, the single biggest buff that Zhongli got was that when his shield is active and you're near an enemy, enemies will now have their resistance to all elemental and physical damage reduced by 20%. This took Zhongli from being a low S tier character straight up to being a double S tier character. Sure, there were other characters that could provide shields, but none of them were as durable as Zhongli's or provided as much utility, cementing Zhongli as the king shielder, and made the grand majority of players that ended up skipping Zhongli on his first run immediately regret their decision. Luckily, we did get a Zhongli rerun in 1.5, but if you missed him then that means that you haven't had a chance to get him again until now. But is he still worth it all these months later? Well, let's take a quick look at his kit and decide for ourselves. Starting out with Zhongli's auto attacks, despite being a physical Zhongli main all the way back when I started this channel, I can't in good conscience recommend building up his auto attacks to the grand majority of players. If you are building him with a physical build in mind, or if you're going for a non-conventional cryo build with Chongyun and Shenhe, then be my guest and go ahead and build up his auto attacks. Now that his auto attacks also scale off of HP, these builds are a lot more viable. However, the grand majority of all players that use Zhongli don't use his auto attacks at all. This is mainly because Zhongli is played as a Geo support and sub DPS unit, so your priority should be on his skill and his burst, and typically his auto attack should be an afterthought. But speaking of Zhongli's skill, this is his bread and butter. Not only does it allow him to summon a Geo construct that deals damage, but it also continues to deal damage over a 30-second duration, while also providing a chance to produce energy when you hit an enemy. And when you hold his skill, he causes an explosion of Geo damage, dealing AoE Geo damage to all surrounding enemies, summoning a stone steel if you don't already have one on the field, and most importantly, producing his shield, which as I mentioned earlier has 150% damage absorption to all elemental and physical damage, while simultaneously shredding enemies' resistance to elemental and physical damage by 20%. In my personal opinion, his skill is absolutely the most valuable part of his entire kit, and the main reason why most people would recommend summoning for him. This shield not only provides you protection when fighting harder enemies, but simultaneously increases all of your damage just by being near an enemy while shielded. Some say that this is like turning on easy mode in Genshin Impact, but for many players that struggle with taking a lot of damage, or want more consistent or safer clears in endgame content, then Zhongli's able to provide that to you on a silver platter. The only time when Zhongli's shield isn't 100% viable is when fighting enemies that can still damage through shields through corrosion, or like the energy-sucking bishops, or sometimes in very specific situations like when you're dealing with sheer cold, or when fighting enemies that constantly inflict burn like La Senora, but these are definitely exceptions to the rule. And finally, let's talk about his burst. Zhongli's burst summons a giant meteor from the sky, and completely obliterates any enemies down below. While since it's Geo, it can't cause any major elemental reaction damage, it does have insanely high damage scaling, and even free-to-play players can manage to get over 100,000 damage per burst, so long as they have a decent build. Or if you're really lucky and get the Staff of Homa, you can easily get over 200,000 with the right build and setup. Zhongli's burst also has a petrifying mechanic, which allows him to petrify any enemy that isn't a world boss or a weekly boss. Unfortunately, the petrify doesn't last very long, but it is usually enough to get your bearings and set up for your next combo. However, it's also really important to keep in mind that his burst only costs 40 energy, meaning that with enough ER or the right supports, his burst is easily spammable, providing great sub DPS damage while also giving you a little crowd control. Okay, but now that we've gone over Zhongli's kit, let's move on to his best weapon choices. We're going to start out with his best 5-star options and then move our way down to more free-to-play friendly options. Starting off with the creme de la creme, we have the Staff of Homa. The Staff of Homa is by and large Zhongli's absolute best weapon, and unfortunately nothing really comes close to it in terms of ease of build. Not only does it have a high base attack and give you an insane 66.2% crit damage, but it also increases your HP by 20% at R1 and provides you with an attack bonus based off of your total HP. And if your HP is below 50%, you get an additional attack bonus on top of that. And since Zhongli is a completely HP scaling character, for not only his defensive capabilities but his offensive capabilities, there's really just no contest. However, that being said, while the Staff of Homa is his best option, it's not the be-all end-all. If you're going for decent damage, you can also go for the Primordial Jadewing Spear, since it does give you a decent amount of crit rate and a decent amount of extra attack if you manage to build up its stacks. Engulfing Lightning and Skyward Spine are both decent options since they do provide him with a good amount of energy recharge, allowing him to spam his burst more often. Calamity Queller is surprisingly decent on him since it does have such a high base attack, while also providing extra elemental bonus damage, and since Zhongli is mainly played off field, he can also take advantage of the extra attack bonus from the Calamity Queller's passive. And lastly, for the 5-star options, we have the Vortex Vanquisher. I have issues with this weapon. While you may see this as his signature weapon in promotional material, it is unfortunately not his best in slot. This is because Zhongli used to scale much more off of attack, but since the tweaks that they made to his kit, this weapon has much less synergy with Zhongli nowadays. While it's nice that it does give you an attack buff while shielded, and the extra shield strength is nice, you can only really max out on Zhongli's damage by building stacks, and since Zhongli mainly wants to be off the field, this isn't always helpful. Also, in regards to the shield strength, it's only counted for Zhongli and not the entire party, making the passive essentially useless if you're not face tanking with Zhongli on the field. So while I wouldn't go as far to say that the Vortex Vanquisher is trash, I will say that I don't think that it's worth your primos. That is, unless you're trying to complete his overall aesthetic. But with the 5 stars out of the way, let's talk about his 4-star options. The current fan favorite is probably the Favonius Lance, since it's able to provide energy both for Zhongli and his entire team, also making it easier to spam Zhongli's burst and provide more crowd control. However, if you're going for damage dealing options, if you're running a mainly Liyue team, you can run him with a Lithic Spear for extra attack and crit rate, or if you're in need of a stat stick, you can always run the Deathmatch or the Blackcliff Pole in order to balance out your crit stats. Or if you're going for a physical build, you can always go for the Crescent Pike. Or if you're lacking on energy recharge and you don't have the Favonius Lance, you can always run the Prototype Star Glitter. However, unlike most 5 stars, Zhongli can actually really well utilize a 3-star weapon, that being the Black Tassel. This is currently the only polearm in the game that has an HP substat, and therefore this is actually the weapon that will give the absolute biggest buff to Zhongli's shield. So while its low base attack and passive might be useless to Zhongli, if you're looking for the absolute fattest shield, then this weapon will even beat out the Staff of Homa. And in my opinion, this makes Zhongli one of the most free-to-play friendly 5 stars in the game. While you might not be dealing a lot of damage, knowing that you can protect your entire team with a 3-star weapon is definitely nothing to sneeze at. Okay, but now that we've covered all of his weapon options, let's move on to the artifacts. This is actually a little complicated since Zhongli actually has a lot of viable options. However, since I mainly run Zhongli as a support unit nowadays, I tend to run him with a full 4-piece set of the Tenacity of the Millilith. Not only does this give him extra 20% HP, but it also provides the entire party with a 20% attack boost every time Zhongli's skill hits an enemy. However, I also think that it's kind of important to note that Zhongli's personal damage isn't as high using this build. If you want to go for a more offensive sub DPS set, you can always go for the tried and true 2-piece Noblesse, 2-piece Archaic Petra, since this will give you the biggest boost to your burst damage. However, you can also go for a hybrid build, such as a 2-piece Archaic Petra, 2-piece Tenacity. This way you can increase your geo damage, while also increasing your HP and your damage absorption. And if you're going for a physical build, you can either go for a full 4-piece Pale Flame, or with a 2-piece Pale Flame, 2-piece Bloodstained Chivalry. There are also other options that you can go with, like adding in Emblem of Severed Fate for ER, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to come down to every player's personal playstyle. Okay, but now that we have weapons and artifacts out of the way, let's move on to Zhongli's Constellations and whether or not they're worth it. Zhongli's Constellation 1 allows you to summon an extra Stone Steel, allowing you to have 2 separate sources of pulsating geo damage. This also allows him to get his energy back up a lot quicker. I would say that this is a nice quality of life, and it does definitely make his gameplay a little bit smoother, but I wouldn't go as far to say that it's game-changing. Constellation 2, on the other hand, makes it so that when you cast Zhongli's Burst, you and surrounding party members will instantly get protected by Zhongli's shield. This also includes party members in co-op. In my opinion, this is one of Zhongli's better constellations, and really makes it so that you're shielded at all times no matter what, even if your elemental skill is on cooldown. And for light spenders, I would probably say that this is a good stopping point. However, for whales and fellow Zhongli simps, let's go over the rest of his constellations. Constellation 3 improves Zhongli's skill by 3 talent levels, making his already strong shield even stronger. Constellation 4 increases his burst AoE by 20%, while also increasing Petrify by 2 seconds. I do have to say that the AoE increase is actually very nice, however the extra 2 seconds of Petrify is kind of lackluster in my opinion, and would be much more worth it if it was 3 to 4 seconds instead. Constellation 5 increases his burst talent level by 3 levels, which after talent level 10 is basically just a damage increase. And Constellation 6 makes it so that when his shield takes damage, 40% of that incoming damage is converted into HP for the current character, and a single instance of regeneration cannot exceed 8% of that character's max HP. While you won't be seeing the absolute biggest heals off of this, in most content this is actually enough to usually get by without a healer, allowing you to free up that healer spot for even more damage. Overall, I would say that Zhongli's constellations are definitely decent, however none of them are absolutely broken or game-changing to the point where you need to feel pressured to summon for any of them, essentially making them nice to have, but definitely not a necessity. I pulled for C6 just because I love Zhongli and he's one of my absolute favorite characters, but I want to let you know that even if you only have him at C0, he's still gonna work very well for you. Alright, and usually at this part of the video I would start to talk about team comps for this specific character. However, with Zhongli, this is a little bit harder. Not because he doesn't pair well with any characters, but the exact opposite. Zhongli essentially pairs well with every single character in Genshin Impact. Don't know which character to use? Do you have a random flex spot on your team that needs filling? Slap in Zhongli. Have a character that's very prone to getting interrupted during their attack string? Slap in Zhongli. Have a character that's very frail or deals damage to themselves? Slap in Zhongli. While in some situations there might be a specific unit that is better than Zhongli in a certain team comp, Zhongli is almost never a bad option. Almost every team wants at least one shielder on it, so why not have the best shielder in the game? I'm actually racking my brain trying to think of a single moment where you wouldn't want Zhongli on your team, but there's never actually a time where Zhongli actively makes your team worse or doesn't provide at least some synergy. However, if I did have to pick specific characters that Zhongli pairs exceptionally well with, I would say that they're Albedo, Ito, Yoimiya, Hu Tao, Klee, Xiao, Eula, Ningguang, Geo Traveler, and Ganyu, all either because he's able to protect them from damage or interruption, or in the case of Geo Traveler, Ningguang, and Albedo, that their Geo constructs resonate well with each other. But like I said, even if they're not mentioned in this list, Zhongli still pairs well with just about anyone that you pair him with. And that being said, let's make the final decision of whether or not he's worth it. In my personal opinion, Zhongli has been and still is one of the single best characters in Genshin Impact. Not only does he protect your entire team with an amazing shield, but also boost your entire team's damage by reducing enemies' resistance to physical and elemental damage. He is by far one of the most flexible characters in Genshin Impact, allowing you to build him however you want to play him, and allowing you to slot him into just about any team. On top of this, Zhongli is extremely free-to-play friendly, but still performs well for both free-to-play and whales alike. The only time that Zhongli really struggles is when fighting enemies that have the corrosion mechanic or that can hit through shields. However, these enemies are actually pretty few and far between, besides floor 12 of Spiral Abyss with the Rift Towns, but keep in mind that Spiral Abyss is constantly changing, and these enemies won't be here forever. And even when fighting enemies with corrosion, Zhongli's shield is still useful. While it can't protect you from the corrosion itself, it does still protect you from elemental and physical damage, and prevents you from getting interrupted. And making sure that you're able to do your full combos is one of the easiest ways to make sure that you're dealing more damage. While I understand that a lot of players are worried about more and more enemies that might be able to damage you through shields, I still think that Zhongli is going to be a worthwhile investment. Zhongli just makes playing Genshin Impact so much easier, and in my personal opinion more enjoyable. However, I do know that not everyone likes Zhongli, primarily because they think that he makes the game too easy. And while I agree with that to a point, I personally love Zhongli because it allows me not to worry about getting hit, while simultaneously allowing me to focus all of my energy into dealing as much damage as possible. And I don't know, I find that more fun than getting tossed around, but ultimately it's going to be up to you and what you find fun. The constant thrill of possibly dying, or not worrying at all about taking damage and instead focusing all of your energy on dealing as much damage as possible while shielded. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I don't think that there's a single character in Genshin Impact that is a must pull. With enough time and investment, you can beat this game completely free to play, and with whatever characters that you want. However, out of all of the 5 stars in the game, I think that there's only 2 that come very, very, very close to being a must pull, and and those are Zhongli and Kazuha. These two units are so universal and so good on almost every single team comp that you place them on, and in my opinion, that's one of the most valuable things that you can get out of a character. Zhongli is an account booster, so ultimately I'd say that if you want him, you should go ahead and summon for him. Alright, and that's about all that I have to say about Zhongli for now. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful at all, please feel free to leave me a like and comment down below with whether or not you're planning on summoning for Zhongli. Or if you already have him, do you like him, or do you regret pulling for him? Also, if you're still on the fence between Xiao, Ganyu, Zhongli, and Shenhe, feel free to check out my other recent videos, so that hopefully it can help you make a best decision for you. I'll make sure to leave links both up above and down below. And if you want to see more Genshin Impact content from me, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell. Okay, but that's all for now. So until next time, best wishes. Bye.